But before that, I want to talk to a very special person who has joined me via video chat as well. It's no one less than Professor Odile Limpach. Thank you so much for joining me today and taking time to be here.
Hello, good morning. I'm very happy to be here, actually.
Yeah, and we're happy to have you, Odile. You're teaching economics and entrepreneurship at the at the Cologne Game Lab, excuse me, where you're also managing the incubator of the CGL. You're also co-founder of the accelerator Spielfabrik. Besides that, you're working as a strategic consultant for serious games on cross-media projects. But that's surely not all. You're doing much, much more, and you have done a lot in the gaming industry already. And, well, can you tell us a little more about that, like about your endeavors?
Yes, of course. Well, I've been a very long time in the game industry, so I'm not going to speak about the last 25 years because it's going to be too long for this morning. I've been working a long time for Ubisoft as a managing director of a distribution company in Germany, and then I was the managing director of the Blue Byte studio. And then a little bit more than 5 years ago, I think it's already 6 years ago, I decided that, well, I want to build my own company. And that's why we started with somebody I met in Berlin, actually, Spielfabrik, as an accelerator for young developers. And on this other side, I had the opportunity to become a professor at the University of Cologne and teaching economics and entrepreneurship. So combining all these and all the experience I had and all, I liked the presentation before very much about this market is changing so much and so having so many changes very, very fast and very dramatic changes, structural changes, that the last years I spent a lot of time working with young developers and not so young developers and speaking about what they need and trying to mentor them, to coach them also with our acceleration program to come on the market. And then I realized that there are no clear definition of publishing, no clear definition of what does it mean, because a lot of actors have just grown, and the market is young, actually, for a market. It's very young, 20 years or 25 years. And so I decided to write a book about the challenge of publishing. So I asked also a couple of very smart people to write some chapters in it and about financing, about marketing. And also then I interviewed a lot of developers and of publishers about what are their problems, what do they know, what do they do not know, how they tackle the challenge of publishing actually with somebody or self-publishing. And at the end this year, I managed to publish this book about the challenge of publishing for video game companies.
And that's what you're going to tell us about, right? You prepared a small presentation for us, which I'm very excited about.
Yes, exactly. So I have no slides because it's such a short time. I think it's okay also to speak like that.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to try to give you a little bit of an extract of this book. We did also a lot of research. I was reading about all the actors that are on the market. And yes, so let's go.
I was about to say, Odile, thank you so much. And the stage is yours.
Thank you. So what I was just looking at, I'm staying on time, more or less. So yes, as I was saying, I work with a lot of independent developers, and what I came to see is that actually working with a publisher and deciding if you're going to go with a publisher or not, it's more or less something like a relationship you're deciding on. So it's very much personal and it's very complex to decide. So there are no right or wrong decision. It's really about what am I going to do and how can I make this decision. So it's what I'm going to speak today is a lot about a relationship. And on a side note, I've been happily married for 25 years with 3 kids, so I think I can speak about happy relationship. And I do believe really that you can have a very good relationship with your publisher. And as I was saying, compared to books and films, publishing has no definition, really. The actors that are there, the publishers, the developers, the distributor, and so on, they have grown more or less organically. It has all happened. And because also the market is changing so fast, because of all the technology changes also, it's always evolved. So I really very often have a conversation with developers, and I think they have a wrong assumption. For example, last week, a publisher was telling me, "Oh, I don't want a publisher." I said, "Okay, I'm fine with you. You're very good. Go on self-publishing. It's also very good to do." And I was like, "But tell me, why don't you want a publisher?" And he was like, "Well, because I don't want somebody to handle my community. I want to do it myself. I think it's very important to be in contact with my gamer, and I don't want somebody to make the community work for me." And I was like, "Well, the publisher doesn't have to make a community work. You can also take a publisher and say," and I think he's very right saying that he wants to be in contact with his community. You can do it by yourself, and the publisher can help in other domain of the commercialization of your game. So I think first what I would like to say is that publishing is it's actually about everything and nothing. So publishing is about funding, for example. It's a very traditional funding, but it can be about crowdfunding. It can be about equity, which is a very nice interview today, about advertising based. So it's a lot of different things where the publisher might be able to help or not, depending on what you want. And on this also conversation I had yesterday actually with a not so young developer, honestly, and he already had published a couple of games. And he was telling me, well, if I have so now I don't need a publisher anymore because I found the funding. I was like, it's not because you don't need any funding that you don't need a publisher. You have to decide at which point of your project the publisher is going to enter your project. So a lot of misunderstanding, I think, about what it is publishing. And publishing is, of course, not only funding. It's a lot about distribution, digital distribution, physical distribution, worldwide. Do you want to go in every country? A publisher might be specialized in Asia and help you there, where you have no contact at all, you'll not be able. So you might self-publish in one part of the world and go with a publisher in another part of the world, for example. It's about merchandising and much more. It's a lot about what we call the life cycle management of a game. And it's not a very difficult and complex to make life cycles. So it's about sales, bundling, pricing, monetization strategy, and so on. Publishing can also be about co-development, porting. It's very traditionally about qualitative and quantitative feedback, QA, production, monitoring. It's also very traditionally about localization, translating in different languages, age control that we have worldwide now, production of media assets, for example. And of course, it's a lot about communication, about press relationship, about community events, yes or no, about events like the Games Week Berlin, about advertising. So if you see that all the definition of publishing, actually, it means that publishing really, what you decide as the publishing strategy influences your project from the very beginning. And you have all kinds of publishers out there. You have the crazy young ones, you have the very innovative ones, you have what we call the boutique publisher, small, specialized, very personal in the way they work with you. You have the professional ones, a little bit bigger, and you have the very, very professional one like THQ Nordic with a big list of services they can provide or not, and telling you what could be their support. So I also noticed that there was a dramatic lack of literature about this. I've been researching a lot, and because of my classes at the Cologne Game Lab, I was looking for books I can recommend for my students to read, to start, and also the people from the incubator to start about thinking about publishing. And I noticed that there are not much. So I think it's a good thing about being online. If anybody has a reading recommendation, please send them to me, because maybe I missed something, but there are not much books about this. So actually finding a publishing partner is really finding the right partner. And there are unfortunately no Tinder of publishing. Unfortunately or not, I'm the old school business. Maybe I like to meet people real life also. But so it's like for every partnership, when you want to find a partner, you need to know yourself actually first. And then you can find out what you need and find out how you're going to work with this person. So I came up in this book with many questions about, it's more like a self-reflection and a thinking about your project and to know what you need. And publishing and understanding the business of marketing, funding, and so it's no rocket science at all, actually. To my point of view, it's much more difficult to learn programming than to learn marketing, sales, or publishing. But most of the developers I speak with, they do not always take the time to think about it before and early enough before rushing into a search for publisher or before going self-publishing. And in sports, for example, you say that preparation is 90% of your success. And actually, it's very true in business also. If you prepare yourself and you think in advance, then you're going to have much more success. So today, I just pick a couple of questions I think you should ask yourself before you go and decide if you do self-publishing or not. And if you look for it, if you want to look for a publisher, what kind of question you can ask yourself. First, you should ask yourself if you're ready to prepare the best pitch ever and to iterate also many, many times, because you're going to have to go all this through process of pitching, negotiating, and it might take like 3 to 9 months. And you might end, like in real life, with no publishing partner at all after this 9 months or more working on it. So are you really ready to do all of this? And also iterate and practice. I've been working with a lot of developers the last 2 years, and I see everybody has made progresses just on iterating. Iterating, asking people what they are, when they think about it, what they understood when you present, what they understood about your game, and then changing it and doing it again. So this is a process that is tiring. It's you have to be open to feedback from other people, and you have to really dedicate time to this. And speaking about dedicating time for developers, it's a lot also dedicating financial power. So do you have the financial power to do all this process and to close the gap on the financial side until you have a publisher? Because negotiating under pressure is not a good idea. If you know that in 2 months you don't have money anymore for your studio, you're not going to be in a good negotiating position with your publisher. So think about it before. Also, are you looking for a project or company funding? You have to really separate it clearly, because a publisher might and should be willing to support you financially on your project, but not especially on finance that has to do something with your company, like buying chairs or paying the rent or buying a computer. Of course, this is part also of your project, because you need an office and you need a chair and you need a computer to develop your project, but you have to clearly find out, how do I present this? How do I put the costs that are really dedicated to the project and the costs that are dedicated to the company? Or you're looking for a partner ready for a long time and you are ready to give some equity of your company, then you can speak about company funding. But these are two different things. So be careful not to mix them. Coming back to the partnership, when you have a partnership, it's also about recognizing the value of this partnership. So you're going to work with somebody, and this person ideally is going to help you. Are you really willing to recognize this value, to be open about the feedback, and also to give something for that? So it's going to be revenue share. It's going to be something that you are ready to share about your project. And I know some people that are not ready to do that, and that's fine with it. Then you should go self-publishing, but ask yourself first, not trying to find help and not being willing to pay for it, I would say. I'm saying, are you ready also to leave a partnership? It means you have to accept that the partner is giving you feedback. You have to understand the feedback. And also, I'm not saying that you have to do everything that the publisher is telling you, but you should listen to it and be very open. So it's all about honesty, about ethics, about integrity, about respectful interaction with your publisher. So this is something you have to be prepared for. And also, maybe one last question before I run too much out of time. It's about also knowing your game and knowing exactly what you offer. Of course, the publisher ideally is the person that knows well about marketing, about branding, about everything, and he will help you to do that. But on the other hand, you're the one that know your game best. So you shouldn't just put it like, this is a dirty work, the marketing, and I don't want to deal with this at all. You will have to deal with this. And the more you deal with it at the beginning of your project also, the better it's going to be at the end. It's going to be defined, and the better you're going to reach the people you want to reach with your games. So as you see, it's very much within the whole course of your project that publishing is playing a role. So there are many more questions and subjects to tackle. I think I don't want to scare you with that. I just want to make sure that it's so important that you step back once and think about what it is. What does it mean, publishing? And by the way, the exercise is nice, is interesting for developers, but also for publishers, so that you understand better. And at the end, when you take a decision, you always know afterwards if it's the right decision or the wrong one, but not taking a decision, not choosing to, it's also taking a decision. It's going without the publisher, and then it's having also a consequence of your project. So this is it for me. I'll be happy to chat a bit with anybody will be interested in it. And yes, have fun at the Games Week, I would say.